My husband's best friend told me that she was pregnant with my husband's child and demanded that we divorce. Now he's begging me to take him back. I met my husband while I was there, and we hit it off instantly. He was the man of my dreams. He took me on date nights, made sure I was loved, and gave me big gifts every so often, telling me I was the only one for him. I believed this since we had been together for 4 years, and I'd never had any issues until he introduced his best friend, whom we will call Laura, for privacy reasons. I remember we had an argument because he didn't tell me about her during our whole relationship, and he had been sneaking to see her and hanging out with her at parties when I was sleeping, believing that he was working overtime. This hurt me, and my first thought immediately went to infidelity, but I found all of their texts to be platonic after he willingly told me to look. I thought she was nice at first since when I first met her, she spoke to me politely and said how lucky I was. Until recently, my husband invited me along because it was her mother's anniversary, and her family loved my husband. After all, they had known each other since they were kids. I was okay with this and quite excited since I wanted to make more female friends and have girls' nights out to relieve my work stress. I walked into the house with my husband, and she ran to him happy. She wrapped her whole body around his arm and dragged him to the garden. After being dragged away, he didn't even come to get me, so I went to the kitchen to ask for a drink, where Laura's mother greeted me. She is a lovely person. We generally had a nice talk about our own lives, and she made sure I felt welcome. The whole gathering was mainly nothing special till it got to the dinner. I sat beside my husband, and Laura approached me and asked me to move. I asked why, since the only other spot available was next to her uncle and mother, and since it was about her mother, wouldn't she want to sit next to her? Laura replied, "'Cause I want to sit next to him." I turned to my husband, who nodded and told me to move, saying I was childish and making a scene. At this point, I generally felt my blood boiling. I stood up and told my husband I felt uncomfortable and needed to go to the bathroom and ask where it was. Laura told me, and I left the table, doing breathing exercises and trying to calm down. I went back to the table to sit next to Laura's mother. The whole time, they were laughing, and it seemed that everything he said was funny to her. She kept rubbing his back, touching his arms, and saying how strong he had gotten, and she would look at me smugly. The breaking point was when I put a bit of meat onto my plate, and she said, "Are you going to eat all of that?" And I froze in embarrassment while she and my husband laughed. Her mother stood up for me, saying that it was inappropriate to treat guests with respect, but she ignored it. Laura is beautiful and slim and works out, so coming from her hurts greatly. I stood up, walked out the front door, and called my dad. I told him to pick me up. While I was getting comfortable, my phone flooded with messages from my husband and Laura. I read the messages, and to my horror, my husband was saying I had ruined the whole dinner and that he would stay there for the night. I then read what Laura said, saying I had ruined her night because of my pick-me behavior. My husband came home around 5 p.m. from Laura's, and I immediately said leaving me and staying at another woman's house was disgusting, and he started shouting that I was overreacting again and that I needed to go counseling for my jealousy issues. For about a month, everything was going okay again. Apart from that, my husband got more distant and cold, and I could feel that our argument wedged a gap in our marriage, until I got a message from Laura this morning with a positive pregnancy result and a threat saying we should get divorced, cause it's my husband's. My husband came home around 6 a.m., threw his keys on the side, and went upstairs without saying anything to me. I thought this was a little rude, and I walked up after him, telling him we needed to talk, but he said he was tired and needed to sleep, which made me angry because I was serious. I told him halfway up the stairs that I knew about him and Laura, and he looked at me in confusion. I explained my side in the text and what it seemed like, and he laughed. This filled me with so much petty rage because I had had enough of being walked on, so I pushed past him into our room, got a suitcase under the bed, and started packing his stuff for him. He started shouting at me, saying horrible things, but I didn't hear most of it since I was crying uncontrollably and busy ramming every item of clothing he owned. One insult that stood out to me was Crazy Beach, and this is where I snapped and said some horrible things too. I know I called him a lousy husband, but in more of a ruder tone. He left with his suitcase after I said I would get my dad involved if he didn't go. Small update, my husband messaged. He was sorry and wanted to come home and needed to talk about Laura's message. I'm unsure what he will say, but I will message him back to meet me somewhere because I don't want him in my house right now. I'm unsure what he will say, but I'm ready for the lies and gaslighting. Update. I'm sure what I did was a complete overreaction and was regretting it, till I texted Laura's mother since I said I would do that. She didn't reply till 11 in the morning, but basically what happened is that she only met my husband 2 years ago, which I'm guessing is through the time of constant overtime from him. He is also staying there currently. This made me so angry that I texted Laura something petty which I don't regret. I hadn't replied to her yet, so I told her that she can have him, and I can't wait till the same things happen to her and she gets cheated on. She's not replied yet or seen it. I have screenshot everything she said in the picture and will be calling a lawyer later on. Nothing else has really happened. If it does, I will give another update. Thanks everyone. Update 2. I have no idea how to start this. I'm at a loss for words and I feel generally sick, and this is the lowest point I think I've recently hit mentally. I'm going to try and be punctual for this, but I cannot stop crying and I feel so betrayed. Thank you all for the support and love you have given me, and so for this it has motivated me to tell everyone what has happened. Laura called me early in the morning, not sure why so late, but I wasn't doing much anyway. I was replying to comments and cleaning the kitchen, swallowing in self-pity. Pathetic, I know. She was shouting at me, calling me out for cheating on my husband first and that my hypocrisy was laughable. I was genuinely mortified since I've never done that and asked her what she meant, and apparently my husband, the man that's supposed to back me up and love me unconditionally, told her a huge sob story lie. Apparently in our argument he told her I hit him out of a jealous rage and that I threw his stuff out the window, which is why he left. I told her I was the one to kick him out and he didn't leave on his own accord, and definitely never laid hands on him, especially since he is 6'1" and I am 5'4". She didn't believe me and told me the whole reason she had done what she did in the first place was to teach me not to cheat, and that my husband was a good man, and that if I continued, another woman who's better than me would take him, but in the end she decided to end it for him, so she sent me the messages. She agreed what she did was childish and also confessed to only liking him platonically and did him a favor because of all the horrible stuff I had done. I believe this was so she would take him in? I have no clue why he would lie about stuff this serious. After he was there for a while she told her mother the same story he told her, and her mother has blocked me. I showed her the messages my husband sent, and after countless back and forths with her, we ended up agreeing to meet and that I should cancel meeting up with my husband. She's conflicted at this point in time since I told her the lies were fake. She also said that my husband told her that I knew about her after she saw him and me on a Facebook post. I'm guessing she did some snooping and my husband wasn't very private online. So she asked why I never was mentioned and he said the conversation never came up, and I'm guessing that's where the lies begun. The day where he didn't come home till 5 was because she told him that she was going to send the picture of her friend's old pregnancy test to me and pretend it's hers so he could not continue with being treated like that, and he actually went to hers instead of going home to be confronted, and hoped it would all blow over in the morning. Laura also confessed that he also tried to entice her into making love with him, which she said no and thought it was a little odd. I'm guessing this caused her to call me since that moment was a red flag to her and was still on his side, but wanted to hear my side before she blocked me. I want nothing to do with him, and even the thought of him fills me up with hate. I've never met a man so disgusting. I never have once laid hands on my husband, and the allegations completely disrespect people who are actually stuck in those spousal situations. I don't know how much more I can put up with this, and everything is really getting to me. I'm genuinely sick and will certainly not be meeting him and want nothing to do with him. But hopefully meeting Laura to properly explain the truth. I doubt anything else interesting will happen, just boring legal stuff. If it does, I most likely won't make another update since I'm feeling mentally drained. Thank you everyone.